Well, this is training.
The podcast.
Yeah, speaking, right? There's no audience, but it's still training.
Oh, there's an audience.
No live audience. Well, I mean, there is a live audience too. But nobody I can see, no eyeballs I'm looking at beside yours, as Granny would say. But yeah, this is training right here. My webinars that I do, anything where I'm talking about health is training, right? It's not to the level yet, but you have to start somewhere. You don't start, and athletes don't start lifting 450 pounds. Like, you got to work your way there.
All right, we're out. I was gigging it for sure. Okay, so if you're watching live, we appreciate you. Make sure you give us a like and a subscribe to the YouTube channel. We have been growing across our YouTube channels with Truvel Forever, Play Black Wall Street. Our listenership is growing across Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We truly do appreciate y'all. Definitely make sure you follow, subscribe, and tell a friend about the podcast, right? We try to give as best holistic information as we can. So if you have someone that you care about and you feel like they should be living their best life too, share the podcast with them. They'll appreciate it, right? So today, I feel like the main theme is procrastination versus preparation. When you think of, and Queen, if I fall off the deep end, reel me in. But I feel like when you think of an athlete's life, you think of their training regimen, you think of their dedication. Literally all the training almost in their life leads them to the Super Bowl. Right? Or if it was the NBA, leads them to the finals. If it was skiing, leads them to the Olympics. But it's crazy how all this life, all this work, all this training, all this coaching, all this dedication, all the sacrifices leads you to this one very pivotal moment. And I like the connection to the did you know is because I think we sometimes think in that week before the event, we need to be doing a whole bunch of extra training. We need to be stressing ourselves out to give us that extra edge. But we don't realize we've been training for years.
Right.
You've been preparing for this moment for over 20 years, over 30 years. For some rare NFL players or NBA players for almost 40 years. You've been training for this moment. So maybe training and stress isn't the most important in this week. It is the self-care. It is the meditation. It's the healing process and getting in the right mindset. How do you feel about that?
I agree. I feel like for what I thought about when you were talking about that is like a connection to I feel like I'm hunching over.
Yeah. So my beautiful queen, it's just when I listen back to the podcast, one, I speak louder. So it's just my voice is a little bit louder. And then two, I know you like to look over at my luscious beard.
I do. I just
won't
look at you anymore.
I know it's gonna hurt.
But I made a connection to like college and midterms and stuff like that. When it's like the natural inclination is to pull an all-nighter and get all your late night studying in and do all of this extra studying because you think that's going to help you. But in actuality, most of the time you will do better with a good night's sleep because all that cramming is actually decreasing your brain's ability to recall all of the stuff that you do know. So it's like it's really hurting yourself. So I feel like for those athletes who have really been doing the right things throughout their entire life, you've been training the right way all throughout your career and all throughout the season. Yeah, this last week really should be more about rest. Whereas the athletes who maybe are like, shoot, we got the Super Bowl. Like, I didn't prepare for this. I'm not ready. They may be the ones feeling like, shoot, I gotta get in the gym. I gotta get these last minute drills. I gotta memorize my plays. So I feel like it's really the making sure you put yourself in the position to be prepared for those blessings. Train as if you are going to the Super Bowl, right? You know those moments are going to happen, and if you don't believe that they're going to happen, so train as if it's going to happen, so that you don't have to like put it into high gear and do all this last minute prep when those moments do present themselves.
Yeah, I really like that concept of train as if without a shadow of a doubt that the moment is coming. So my question for you, Queen, and of course for the folks that are listening and watching, is what is your Super Bowl? Right? Think about that. What event is your Super Bowl? And you may have multiple Super Bowls, right? I know, Queen, you have probably multiple Super Bowls, but the one that you care to share, what is one just amazing moment that you are preparing for, you are dreaming about? And the secondary question is going to be, how can you build a training regimen to get you prepared for that Super Bowl? Right? This isn't something that's maybe you're going to accomplish next month. This isn't something that's a tomorrow situation. This is a maybe a year from now, maybe 2 years from now. You're preparing for that date. And what are the small things that you can do all along? What's your season going to look like to prepare you for that championship moment? Right. So Quinn,
Yes.
for you, what is your Super Bowl? What is your Olympics? What is your championship game? What is your you got served final dance off? I'm doing all these analogies to give you just a little bit more time to think about it.
I don't have one. Like I
Mhm.
can't think of like any one particular big thing, but like an example would be like being a speaker at a big conference, like a big health
Yeah.
conference or something like that. That would be a Super Bowl moment for me because one, you know, speaking, public speaking, although like yes, I did give a speech at graduation. That was it just feels different. I'm a different person now. But yeah, public speaking in front of that many people is something that would definitely like terrify me. But I know that that would be a good growth step to get to, and I know that that is something that I still want to work towards because that means that I've reached the point where I'm now an authority in the health world, and people are there to listen to me at that point, have paid to listen to me and other speakers. Really, now that I'm talking about
Hey,
it,
come
it
on,
would be
manifest.
it would be my own conference
Uh-huh.
that I put on
Uh-huh.
because then everybody who has paid to come and learn from me and my team, whoever that is at the time, my Be Well coaches. But yeah, that would be a Super Bowl moment for me. Is like, oh wow, all of these people just paid to come and hear and to experience what we have to offer.
Yeah. So I wanna continue to unpack this because I believe so wholeheartedly, one, in you,
Yes.
and two, the power of manifestation.
Yes.
So you said they're here for a conference to learn from you. What are you teaching them, or what are you and your team of health coaches teaching this amazing audience?
I imagine this amazing audience probably being people who also want to help people.
Mm,
So I feel like my end goal is to like create a program for coaches who want to help go out into the Black community and help people heal holistically. So I imagine that the people in that audience would be people who other coaches, other doctors, nurses, personal trainers, any type of health professionals who also want to um, help their clients and their families and their communities heal holistically, but through a Black lens, because
yeah.
that's really what I'm want to make my program is that we have a lot of health. If you know the history of health, it's all based on white men, like all of the research, even research on women is still very new. Really a lot of what is practiced and preached in the medical field right now was done on white men and then just kind of put blanketly for everybody else. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're just going to apply this to everybody else. It works for everybody else. And I feel like really what's happening now is a more individualized approach to medicine and to health. Um, but yeah, I want to create something for us by us that has our culture, our history, our health, our mindset, our reality in
Yeah.
mind, and teaches that.
Love it. Two more questions for you, Queen.
Okay.
Number one, and please, if y'all listening, watching, keep track of these questions, and I'll try to reiterate them for you as well, because literally the power of manifestation is so amazing. I love it. It's not going to necessarily happen in the time frame that you set all the time, but if you keep your vision very specific and you keep going through that vision, you write down that vision, you talk it into existence, you put it into the airwaves, it will come to pass, right? So, Queen, for you, one, how many people do you feel in this audience? And then number two, what is one tangible functional thing that you want the audience to walk away with?
Right. How many people? Like 2,000 or 3,000.
Ooh, let's go. Okay, 2,000 or 3,000 bodies, minds, souls. Okay, and then what are they walking away with?
They're walking away with a different way to look at health, rather than like, here's a model and I'm going to fit the model to the person. Like looking at the person and being like, okay, I'm going to understand you, your lifestyle, where you're at. These are my tools. What tools can I pull out of my toolbox to help you get to where you want to go? Because I think that that's also a problem in the health field, is that we're just using these standard models, that models of care, diets, exercise regimes that are very generic and are individualized at all. So that's what I would want them to walk away with.
Nice. Let's manifest that for you, right? 2,000 to 3,000 people in the crowd there to learn, and they will walk away with knowing that each individual has a different individualized approach to their health. Boom. It's gonna happen. Can y'all feel it? I can feel it. I can see it. So do that same thing for you. Right. Figure out what is your Super Bowl. What is your big, large event that you are training for, that you are working up to. And now that I'm saying this out loud, I got one more question for you after I go through this. But what is the big event, right? Who do you see at that big event? Who is it for? What are they going to get out of it? And then if you can get a number of people, that can help with the visualization just a little bit too. Last question for you, Queen. I promise. Well, last question in this barrage of questions. How do you train for that? Right. So this is your Super Bowl event. If you were an athlete, you would be going to the gym, you'd be lifting, you'd be practicing your plays, you would be doing coaching drills, all types of stuff to train for this Super Bowl. But for your speaking engagement, for your conference, what does your training look like on a monthly, weekly, daily basis to prepare you for whenever this event occurs?
Well, this is training.
The podcast.
Yeah, speaking, right? There's no audience, but it's still training.
Oh, there's an audience.
No live audience. Well, I mean, there is a live audience too. But no people, I can see, no eyeballs I'm looking at beside yours, as Granny would say. But yeah, this is training right here. My webinars that I do, anything where I'm talking about health is training, right? It's not to the level yet, but you have to start somewhere. You don't start, and athletes don't start lifting 450 pounds. Like, you got to work your way there. Coaching, like when I work with my clients, that's that individualized approach. I want to be able to talk from experience when I am sharing, the approaches that I recommend people to take with their clients. Yeah.
Nice. So an activity I would say you can do, and if like you're already doing this, so I'm just gonna say it to you as if I'm saying it to everyone else who's listening. I gotta be able to use you as an amazing scholar and student, baby. So you have your goal, and you can set it for 5 years out, 2 years out, whatever you want to do. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's what can you do every week that gets you one micro step closer to that goal. And I think for you, the podcast is something you can do intentionally every single week, and you can do it now with the energy of saying, one day I'm going to be on stage, 2,000 people, 3,000 people are going to be listening. I'm preparing every single day for that moment. And I think you may come to the podcast with a little different swag when you think that, right? Number 2, monthly, which is something, again, you're already doing, but what can you do every single month that gets you to your goal? For you, webinars. Teaching people, 5 people at a time, 20 people at a time, 100 people at a time. And one day, I think your webinar is going to get to a point where there's hundreds of people. And that's going to be the moment you're like, if hundreds of people are showing up for this online webinar, I can translate this to a conference now, right? So your webinar almost becomes your scrimmages, right? Or your season games. And then, boom, you get to the final championship game, right? So looking forward to it, Queen.
Me too.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Health Forever podcast. We hope you learned something valuable that you can take and implement into your life. Now, we've all heard that sharing is caring, and this podcast is no exception. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a stranger walking down the street, anybody who you think can level up from this message. As always, we appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you next week. Be well.